My name is Darren Roberts. I live currently in Norfolk, Virginia. I am from Trinidad and Tobago originally, and I am a music teacher. Of course, music, my passion brought me to the US. The professor for my undergrad, I did my undergrad at the University of Southern Mississippi. He actually visited Trinidad and was looking for a percussionist because every 4 years he wanted someone from Trinidad to be a part of his program at the university. So it so happened that he found out about me and, asked me to audition. And he's like, okay, I want to give you a scholarship to come study at my school. And that was really the start of me, leaving Trinidad and pursuing studies in music. Life for me was basically, music, secondary school, primary school, also football. Well, they call it soccer here, but I was also, a football player as well. So I think with the cultural traditions, they're closely associated with like celebrations, dates. So like for Christmas and for Carnival, example, it is very heavily influenced by music. So the fact that I am a music teacher, it helps that I can teach my students certain songs that we would play, you know, in Trinidad during those times of the year. So the fact that I can teach them that also, helps me keep that tradition alive, even though I'm away from home. And it also teaches them, a new culture, a new way of life. Of course, there's, the Christmas food and Diwali food and stuff like that that I try to keep, as much as possible, if it is that it's cooking at home or FaceTiming my family in Trinidad and just watching what they eat. I truly think it would not be much different in terms of my career path. I think I would still be involved in music. I may not have possibly already have a master's. I think I probably may have been teaching after my undergrad and possibly still playing soccer. I considered living in Cuba just because I love Cuban music. That Latin culture has influenced my playing as a musician all my life. So that was really like a big choice to me. I didn't really think about the fact that, okay, I'm going to be international and I'm going to be black. And those two things already set you back quite a lot when you're in the US. In my mind, and race was never a problem, because I grew up in the Caribbean, and it just wasn't a thing that we experienced in the Caribbean. So I expected it to be a bed of roses. I expected it that I would come here. Everything that I wanted musically and academically would just fall in my lap. And that really wasn't the case. I really had to work 10 times harder than I think I expected to. People can be accepting and understanding of the fact that difference is okay and understanding that a new culture doesn't necessarily mean that it is incorrect. Anything that strays from American ideologies should not necessarily be dismissed. So on my end of things, if I also learn to adapt and be flexible with what the US also has to offer, I think just, that give and take and flexibility of what you believe in goes a long way in making a community better. Definitely my family. Like I had been away from home many times before, but just the ability to come home and not see my mom making a hot meal, or just easily talk to my mom in person, whereas having to call her on the phone and, time differences and schedule conflicts and stuff like that was really the hardest thing. I will say my first instrument, which was the djembe, the African drum, had to leave it in Trinidad just because of how much luggage I had to pack. I had my friend, his name is Vincent McMurtry, where I was studying in my undergrad in the University of Southern Mississippi. I was in the percussion department, and he was the only other Black percussionist in the program. And the fact that he welcomed me in open arms and took the time to understand my culture and understand where I came from, and vice versa, I did the same with him. I think that he really made it comfortable for me, especially being in Mississippi And his family also welcomed me into their house with open arms and made me a part of their traditions. So, I think if it wasn't for him, I probably would have been a lot more homesick. The importance of Carnival and what that celebration means to us and what that symbolizes in terms of our identity as a people, the development of our individualism, our music, our national instrument, which is the steel pan, and a lot of that was bred from slavery, and just understanding that our ancestors worked so hard to make sure that what we have today and the celebrations we have today are the way that it is. And the fact that we can freely walk in the street and dance in the street and play the steel pan. The steel pan was an instrument that took very long to develop, and it also was an instrument that a lot of pioneers had to deal with police brutality because it was only associated with gangs. Families didn't want their kids participating, and the fact that we have overcome that and continue to overcome all those tribulations associated with that instrument and our culture as a whole, I think is something that people should be aware of. Of course, Carnival is a big attraction for tourists, but I think really diving deep into why Carnival it is the way it is and why we celebrate with such exuberance and passion as Trinis. One of my mentors, his name is Dr. Clifford Alexis. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he is the reason that a lot of Trinidadians and Caribbean students have the ability to major in the steel pan in America. I would not have been able to get my master's in the steel pan if he didn't come to America and started working at Northern Illinois University. And he has made it possible for so many students to, leave their homes and further their studies. And the fact that the only place you can get a master's specifically in the steel pan is in Illinois, not even in the birthplace of the steel pan, which is Trinidad. The fact that, that's where you can get it. And he made that possible. I think people need to look him up and research Dr. Clifford Alexis.